Oh, I got a lot of notes. Hey, my Legion, how y'all doing today? I'm here today to review Season 3 of Stranger Things. Now, after I watched it, I did watch the reviews by Chris Stuckman and Jeremy Johns, and Jeremy Johns said it was a very disappointing season. He liked some of it, but he said it was only okay, and then Chris Stuckman gave it an A minus. Now you're going to hear my opinion on it. And now, a lot of people last season were ragging on that one episode, the Lost Sister, wherever that one thing where they try to influence Eleven to use her powers to get revenge and stuff like that. I thought it was a great episode. A lot of people hated that episode. I think they said that Chris Stuckman said that producers of the show pretty much ditched that idea, but I thought that was a great episode. I actually mentioned that in the live stream I did last night. Now with Stranger Things 3, when I review stuff, I don't like doing spoilers. I know there's a friend of mine, a good friend, who, when we videotape, he says, like, I watched your movie review and I have to actually know it. There's nothing in there you said that made me motivate me to watch the movie, because I guess he wants me to give away the whole thing. And I won't do that, It's like, the discovery is the great part of the movie. Don't give the whole movie away. It's all about the discovery and the enjoyment of the film, and I don't think he understands that, but he wouldn't have seen the movie anyway, so, oh well. Now, Stranger Things 3 picks off, and it starts off, there's usually something to get you hooked, like 80s nostalgia, like last season it starts off with the arcade going to play Dragon's Lair, which was incredibly frustrating. I remember playing that 50-cent game, playing that a couple times. I was like, well, I can play two good games of Dig Dug instead of one crappy game of this. I was never good at it. I thought it was neat. I played it like 3 or 4 times. I gave up. I'd rather play Dig Dug or Pac-Man or whatever. See, I'm old. I grew up in the 80s, so I appreciate the nostalgia factor. And, the most important thing about this show is the characters. We care and we love these characters so much. That's why things are impactful in this. There's a great script. It's wonderfully shot. And, not a spoiler, but they have the characters, introduce the characters again, see what they're doing a couple years after what happened last season. And, of course, there's like a monster or something like that. A very yucky monster this time. And there's a couple parts like, ugh. Or the Ernest in Ernest Scared Stupid, when he kissed that troll, he goes, hey, booger lips, they kiss the troll, and then he put it, and he got a booger on him, and he's like, ew. And I saw that in a theater. I was the only one in the theater. First time that's ever happened. On the day it came out, back in 91. I was still in Fort Detrick, Maryland, before going back to Fort Bragg when I was in the military. This one starts out in the mall and stuff. It has like, Mike and Eleven are dating and stuff now, and kissing, and then her dad Hopper's getting mad because they're kissing. He's like, hey, keep the door open 3 inches! And then, they close, and he's going nuts. And he's talking to Winona Ryder about boundaries and stuff like that, and it's really interesting. And there's, things start going nuts. Oh, and also, they have them sneak into the theater. There's a way that they go through the mall. They have to, through that Scoops Ahoy, which is like an ice cream type thing, and they go to see Day of the... See, that's why I took notes, so I didn't skip over anything. Sneak in to see Day of the Dead. Now, back then, for the gore films, like, even Scarface had this. They used to have these warnings on there if the movie was unrated, because Tom Savini went all out with the gore in this one. In Day of the Dead. And they used to have this warning saying, like, it would have to be unrated, because if it went before ratings board, it would get an X rating, which it is before NC-17. And he said, even though there's nothing, I think it was like, there's nothing sexually explicit in this film, are scenes that might be considered shocking. No one under 17 may be admitted. Or there's scenes of violence that there's scenes of violence that might be considered shocking. No one under 17 admits, so kids under 17 won't be allowed to go in there. Same was true with like Fulci films like Zombie, Gates of Hell, Pieces. Night of the Zombies, which I'm a big fan of, which got retitled Hell of the Living Dead, which was inspirational to Quentin Tarantino. And anyways, when they were watching the movie, they had the introduction with Lori Caldillo in that one room, and all of a sudden the power cuts out. Because the Russians are experimenting with stuff. So we introduced the evil Russians with the monsters and stuff. That's not a spoiler. That's introduced in the first thing. And power shuts off, and then whenever they go back, the movie comes on. But that one kid that had a problem with the alien in the last episode, gets a spidey sense tingling in the back of his neck, and he knows there's something wrong, but he kind of ignores it. Now with the mall coming up, there's lots of protests. I gotta jump ahead to explain something. The mayor is getting lots of complaints from small businesses saying the mall is taking their jobs. Okay, now go back to where I was at when Day of the Dead came out. She was in that room, and then you saw that scene where, she's at the counter and all the alien zombie hands reach out to her. Now they cut to scenes of the small stores in the town in Stranger Things, and it looks like the deserted thing from Day of the Dead. And so much so, you expect to see a newspaper roll up and say you have the headline "The Dead Walk." And you see that one zombie walk out with half his face gone that says Day of the Dead like that, his tongue hanging out. Really cool. No, and then you see Winona Ryder's door. No business whatsoever. She notices that refrigerator magnets are not sticking to the metal surfaces like that. So I want to make sure that's not going to happen here. I have a metal thing right here, pan, right here. I'm going to do a little experiment. And I have a refrigerator magnet my friend Howie Cat sent me Friday the 13th. Right there. Let's see if it sticks. If it don't stick, we're in trouble. Acting. It's acting. Well, anyways, like I said, she was trying to find out, she was talking to the sheriff, and and the sheriff was kind of ignoring it. And then she goes to the teacher, who only has 2 scenes in the movie. And I met him at the Comic-Con, Mr. Clark, and me and John and I got an autograph, and it says, "To Jason, thanks for keeping the curiosity door open, Mr. Clark." He put his name right there. Isn't that cool? Well, anyways, they introduced the kids, and I don't want to give away too many more. I have a little bit of, there's some references that might make you think of other movies, just like the Day of the Dead thing, but that was clever. But you have to be a fan of that to know. They play a little bit of the music in the movie too, because I remember buying the soundtrack for 99 cents back in the early 90s at the Mag 95 on cassette. And there are some other refs. That one guy is obviously a take on the Terminator, but we have to have a strong bad Russian guy. And he even mentioned Arnold Schwarzenegger. They even say Arnold Schwarzenegger, so they have a nod to that. And there was a reference to another movie that is a definite spoiler. So I ain't mentioning it. But you know what I'm talking about when you see it. But, the show kicks ass. It's awesome. You really care about the characters and the situations they're in. But I don't want to give away too much. It's all about the discovery. You love these characters. At least I do. And that's the importance of a good story. Chris Stuckman said, it's being criticized for having too many references to 80s scenes. But, the character's so strong. Other movies try to do that, and it just doesn't work. It worked, the new scene of It, because of the 80s. It worked. And also, I think, John mentioned Stranger Things is X-Files for people who love the Goonies. And not really, because the Goonies, the acting is far better than the Goonies, and the script was much better. When we were watching It and Stranger Things, John and I were saying, boy, child acting's gotten much better than what we grew up with. There's some good child actors when we were growing up, like Ricky Schroeder and stuff like that, in The Champ. And there's other people that were really good, but they really shine in this one. Much better. The actors in the Goonies were actors in this one much better. The script is so well, so great. You really care about what happens to them. That's why you really get involved in the story. The monster's cool. There's some squeamish parts in one scene, oh my God, like that. And I'm a big gore hound. But I love Stranger Things. Is there anything else? I want to mention they gave a lot more time to Erica, that one kid's little sister, who was so funny last time. And I mean, the one thing I don't think she was as funny in this season as she was last season. But whenever her and Murray got involved in a fight, that was hilarious. That was really funny. I thought she was funny last season, but when she got arguing with Murray, and Murray's great through the whole thing. Whenever they bring Murray in the whole character art, it's wonderful. I mean, I give it a 10 out of 10. I love the story. But like I said, my friend said, well, you don't give enough of the stuff away to get people in it. I don't want to give away spoilers and stuff like that. It's all about discovery. That's what it is, and you can binge watch on Netflix. Right? It's on now. It's wonderful. I want to talk about some mall stories right now. They talk about, the mall, and a lot of times malls are failing around the country. And they say the brick and mortar stores are going away. But, I mean, we still have the Mill Creek Mall. That's where my main thing about the malls came from, the Mill Creek Mall as a kid. And then in Edinburgh, they had the Edinburgh Mall, which was never as good. I mean, it's a shell of its former self now. I mean, in the 80s, it was pretty happening, and now there's a few stores in there, but it still looks like abandoned. And Howie Cat mentioned he did a video called Coin Op Games or something like that, and he was showing like those little rides you put a quarter in and stuff. You don't see those anymore. In the Edinburgh Mall, they had a whole big section. They don't have it anymore. I think they got rid of it in 2002, 2003, the big bubblegum section, but there's a huge section of motorized, those little motorized things you put a quarter in. And those were, I mean, I was too big to go in those now. I mean, but my nephew was little, there was one, it was like this sub that you could make it go up and down. And actually, I mean, I put a quarter, he's sitting there, I put a quarter in, and actually it would raise off the ground like this, like about, I don't know, 10, 15 feet, and it would go down like this. And and I thought that was well worth that. I mean, that's back when he was young enough to do those stuff. I think they got rid of that in 2003 or something, but they had a whole bunch of those. And when they got rid of that, I think that's the last time I saw them, I think. I might have seen them once or twice again, but that's about it. But I love the season. The season gets full on 10 out of 10. I mean, little quips. I mean, that one guy's clearly a ripoff of the tournament, but you need to have a bad Russian guy. And I think this was like a year or two before Rocky IV came out with Drago. And they, people may say it's cheesy having Russians as bad guys, but they used to be bad, in the 80s all the time. Other things about the mall, like I said, Mill Creek Mall was my big influence back then. And then, like I said, they had Edinburgh Mall, and then Edinburgh Mall became a shell of its former self whenever the stores started closing down, like 93, 94. I still go there from time to time. I did a couple videos in there. Now, most of my mall experience was in the Army. I didn't go to the Mill Creek Mall that much. There was a couple times in high school when we would go to a field trip or something like that, and then they'd drop us off for like an hour and a half to get lunch and stuff at the Mill Creek Mall, and I'd go to McDonald's or something like that. And I remember going to going to the record place and buying Devo Duty Out for the Future on cassette. So, man, I got another Devo album, and they'd be like, who cares, big deal. And then playing video games and Red Baron. I mean, there was two arcades there, Red Baron and Tilt. And people were saying Tilt was good and Red Baron sucked, but they were both cool. I usually went to Red Baron because everyone else was at Tilt. Playing that one Tron game, the discs of Tron where you threw the frisbees and stuff at people. Playing that. So I loved that. I had good memories of Mill Creek Mall. Now in the Army, basically a lot of times you take the bus. You couldn't do anything basic training, in the Army in Fort Gordon, Georgia, there was a big mall there that was 2 stories. The mall in this one's 2 stories. It's far bigger than the Mill Creek Mall ever was. Mill Creek Mall is like our big mall around our area, and it's still doing well today. And there would be an elevator, and I like going there a lot. And the only fast food place in there was Chick-fil-A. That's the first time I found out about Chick-fil-A. That's why I have memories of Chick-fil-A now. I haven't done any Chick-fil-A reviews, but no one else likes them. That place sucks. It's not that good. It's overpriced. Well, they all sound like Roseanne. Or Princess Carlotta from Desperate Living. Hi, stupid. Hi, ugly. That's John Waters' reference for anyone who knows. And, and then in Germany, we were out in the middle of nowhere, but in Garlstead, the PX was set up like a mall. And we go there all the time. There's a movie theater near the PX, shopette, place where you can get watches fixed, whole bunch of neat stuff. They had Four Seasons or whatever, lots of really cool stuff there, like a bookstore there. Frank's, the hot dog place, with a redundant title. And it was neat. Fort Bragg now, the mall, the PX was kind of like a mall. They had a food court there. I never went to the food court. It was always crowded and always busy. If I was a food reviewer back then, this is in like 91, in Fort Bragg, I'd probably do some reviews there, but I think there's a video from the food court. I think there's a Burger King there now. But I used to go there all the time. That was kind of like the mall. And then outside on Bragg Boulevard, close by, there's a whole line of things back and forth with pawn shops, video rental places, and fast food places. And that's usually where I went. That's all you had to go. And then occasionally I went to the mall. You had to go a long distance. It was only okay. Now, Fort Detrick, there was a couple malls outside the post, like a mile away, and I used to go there all the time and build a movie theaters, go to the arcade for 2-3 hours with $20, play games there, go to Kmart, whole bunch of really cool stuff there. I really enjoyed that a lot. But I go off on tangent, but I want to talk about, stories about the mall. But pretty much, the Mill Creek Mall is pretty much the only really big mall. The Meadville Mall was kind of cool, but it wasn't that big. The Edinburgh Mall's still there. But there's not that many businesses in there, but I go in there sometimes, The Dollar General's in there, but it's not as what it used to be. So there you have it. I hope you like this review of Stranger Things 3, along with mall stories. So I think it goes hand in hand. But I thought it was really cool about the Day of the Dead, Sting and See Day of the Dead, which is cool. Because now you couldn't see it at a theater. I remember on video we used to go to Lampman's. Lampman's, it was home video exchange that Greg, I guess, was managing. Greg Robb, but John always called it Lampman's. And my dad was bitching, Dad's too many horror. Those all horror movies. All horror movies. All gory stuff. And then there was a list of movies I couldn't rent. So some old lady said my dad was gory, but I rented Day of the Dead when it came out. My dad had no idea about it. You couldn't see it in the theater, but once it's in the rental store, you just pick up and rent it. No big deal. That's why I didn't like Blockbuster at the time. But I didn't find out about Blockbuster until a few years later. And then whenever Blockbuster was the only deal time, I rented movies from there, but it wasn't the same. Yeah, I remember when I rented Day of the Dead, my sister, because we were fishing. We were fishing a lot on the weekends. And then I'd get frustrated. We'd be out there all day and I don't want to catch anything. So I said, well, I'm just going to... I think it was my sister's birthday when I was in May. And my dad and my sister went out fishing. I said, well, I'll just watch Day of the Dead at home. I remember watching, getting hungry and eating a big piece of birthday cake. I hope you like this review of Stranger Things Season 3, along with some mall stories. I hope you like it. I'm going to post this right up now, real close. Like I said, I don't do spoilers. But it's all about the discovery. And I highly recommend Stranger Things. It kicks ass. The new season's awesome. I think Dane Panda said he liked this season better than the second one, but I think they're all great. So I hope you like this video review, everybody, and my mall stories. Until next time, bye, please. Take care, my legion.